The story begins in Rio de Janeiro in 1970. The city is under a military dictatorship. The low, unsettling thud of helicopter blades starts encroaching. A woman is bobbing in the water, a dark blue sea filling the screen. Down below, just past the breakers, Eunice Paiva, 40, slim and elegant, in a discreet black bathing suit, floats with her eyes closed, her ears in the water, her expression serene. She hears the muffled noise coming closer. The helicopter's shadow passes over her, and she opens her eyes. The expanse of blue sky is broken by the military aircraft. Eunice shields her eyes against the sun and watches the chopper skirt the packed beach, flying low. The helicopter flies over the sand, which is dotted with swimmers and surfers in colorful suits. Among them, Marcelo, 9, is kicking a soccer ball around with a group of boys. At the net nearby, his sister, Eliana, 15, gets ready to serve in a volleyball match with her friends. A skittish puppy scampers through the forest of legs. It runs out ahead and interrupts the match. Whose mutt is that? A beachgoer asks. Get it off the court, a volleyball friend adds. Eliana's hands grab the mutt. Is he yours? She asks. No, a passerby says. She unceremoniously hands the dog over to her brother. Marcelo, hold him, Eliana says. He's messing up the game. That's what face powder's for, Nalu replies. Marcelo looks over at Eunice, bobbing out in the surf, but runs off in the opposite direction with a mischievous grin. He and his friends run across the beachside avenue. At the net, Eliana looks worriedly over. Careful on the street, Eliana calls out. The boys trot toward a 2-story house on a corner with green windows and open doors. The boys' sandy feet scamper through the garage, past a red Opel Kadett. Marcelo, dog in hand, leads his gang up to the door to the living room. Maria Jose, 30, the aproned maid, and Babu, 8, are setting the table. Wipe your feet, Maria Jose says, as soon as she hears the boys coming. I just swept the house. Does your mom know about this? By his side is baby Bocayuva, 50, his business partner and friend. It was crazy to take on a project this size, Boca says. If it were easy, we wouldn't have taken it on. Rubens responds. I would have, Boca says. I know you would, Rubens replies. They both chuckle. There's a knock at the door. Come in, Rubens says. Babu and Marcelo emerge, dog in arms. No dog in the house. No way, Rubens says. Can we keep him? Please, Marcelo pleads. What did Mom say? Rubens asks. Babu looks to her brother, who doesn't blink. She said to ask you, Marcelo says. What's this got to do with me? Rubens asks. He turns to Boca. You take him. Next to her, Pimpo, 19, is driving with one hand as he tries to grab the camera with the other. If it doesn't click, it won't shoot, Pimpo says. Veroka dodges him, turns the cartridge over, and slots it in. In the back seat, Helena, 17, rolls a joint, and Ronaldo, 20, flips through a Pasquim, a counterculture magazine. The stereo breaks into a rhythmic tune, Rendasi, by Jimmy, Tom Zay. Veroka turns the sound all the way up. Helena lights the joint. Pimpon puts his foot on the gas. Veroka sings along and brings the camera up to her eye. The song continues over the scenes framed by Veroka's Super 8, out of the car window, vendors hawking their wares, a cluster of men cheering at a corner bar, workers nodding off on a packed bus, living fragments of the human geography of Rio in the 70s. Veroka frames a young couple with the long hair on a motorcycle alongside the car. They're led along the streets up to a tunnel going through a large hill. Darkness takes over the shot. A blinding streak of light and shrill whistles cut into the darkness. Veroka takes the viewfinder away from her eye. Many cars are parked on the side of the road. Trunks open. Dozens of people being searched. It's a checkpoint. The couple on the motorcycle have pulled over. Pimpo shuts off the radio, looking nervous. Kill the joint, Reina, Pimpo says. Reynaldo stubs out the joint and stuffs it into his jeans. Armed police officers point their flashlights at the Dodge, waving. Pimpon pulls over. Cut the engine, Officer 1 commands. Veroka holds the camera up. A police officer points a gun at her. Put that camera down, damn it, Officer 1 says. Everyone out, hands on the wall. She squints as he compares her to a list of photos of young suspects, some with glasses, long hair, and beards. He turns to Pimpon. ID, he says. Pimpon takes a step toward the Dodge. Another officer shoves him, and he falls. Hey, you can't do that, Veroka begins. Shut your trap, kid, Officer 2 says. It's in the car. Can I get it? Pimpon asks. Pimpon pulls the ID out of the glove compartment and shows it to the officer, who turns the flashlight on him. Pimpon stares into the light, cowed. Back at the Paiva family home, Rubens is balancing on a chair to decorate the higher reaches of the Christmas tree. With Eliana's help, Marcelo plays with the puppy, nosing at the figurines in the nativity scene. Eunice, looking out the window, addresses Rubens. How long was that movie supposed to be, anyway? She asks. She'll be home soon, Rubens says. Pimpo must have dropped the others off first. Terrorists emerged from multiple cars and captured the diplomat after wounding his bodyguard. Pamphlets were left at the scene signed by the kidnappers. Self-proclaimed National Liberation Alliance. Where on earth were you? Brazilian Bar Association. Then to Maria Jose. Can you put the coffee on? Look, Daddy named him Pimpon, Marcelo says. Don't tell him, Veroka whispers. Rubens turns toward Veroka, and they exchange looks at a distance. Marcelo runs over to the window. Did he leave already? Marcelo asks. But I was going for a ride in his dad's Dodge. You promised. No, sweetie. That's who pays for your matinees. What did you not see? Lock me up at home? And Marcelo. The dog goes in the garage. Dalva's still trying to get us to go to London too, Eunice says. But then she offered to take Veroka with them. I think it might be a good idea. No rush. Speaking, Rubens says on the phone. Just a minute. A few seconds later, she hangs up the receiver. The door to the study is ajar. Someone outside the study watches Rubens as he puffs on a cigar and speaks in a low voice. If I'm not here, you can leave it at the office downtown, Rubens says on the phone. You have the address, right? Marcelo is standing there in his pajamas. Might I know what you're doing up at this time of night? Rubens asks. I couldn't sleep and I smelled your cigar, Marcelo says. Who were you talking to? Rubens celebrates a goal. Marcelo picks up the ball and puts it on the table. Father and son, exhilarated, get back to their game. Through the viewfinder of Veroka's Super 8, the Paivas are seen on the grounds of an old quarry, surrounded by dense forest. They're visiting the site of their future home. The footage is silent. Family gathers around the scale model of the new house. In Rubens' hands is the blueprint. He gesticulates, guiding two laborers who put down markers across the plot. Marcelo runs over to the edge of the area marked out by the stakes and points at the statue of Christ the Redeemer up on top of Corcovado and grins at the camera. Babu tries to go after her brother, but trips and falls on a mound of sand. Eunice comes into the shot to pick her up. At the other end of the plot, Eliana points to the lagoon, off in the distance. Rubens takes the camera from Veroka and films his daughter, who hides behind Nalu, smiling. At a large table in a diner, Eunice and the children share fries and milkshakes. The room is packed with families and young couples enjoying a night out. You'll meet the next John Lennon and never come back, Eliana says. Of course I'm coming back, Veroka says. I want to major in sociology here. Decide after the trip. The Opel Kadett is parked outside a small, charming bookstore, which is closed. A light shining out from the display window hints at life within. Inside, Babu and Marcelo run down the corridors of empty shelves. Helena and her sister chat with Eliana and Veroka. Standing by Eunice, Dalva Gaspararian, 40, hands Nalu a book. This one's for you, Dalva says. Thank you, Delva, Nalu replies. Veroka promised not to give you any trouble, Eunice says. She'll be no trouble at all, Delva assures her. I can always go in her place, Nalu says. When the house gets off the ground, we'll all go, Eunice says. Yeah, right. Once you move into that house, you'll never leave Rio again, Delva says. At the back of the store, Fernando Gaspararian, 40, is sealing up boxes of books. Rubens, crouched down beside him, is as light-hearted as the rest. I'm sending Veroka first to see if it's not a scam, Rubens says. It's gotten too dangerous here, Rubens, Gaspa says. We are sitting ducks. You should really come with us. Nalu, in the bed beside her, pays close attention as her sister rifles through a wooden box. Are you taking that all? Nalu asks. Veroka picks a necklace. Just this one, she says. She offers the box of costume jewelry to her sister. Seriously? Nalu asks. Just don't let Eliana touch it, Veroka says. Nalu crosses her fingers and kisses them, sealing the pact. In the master bedroom, Eunice reaches for a hat box on a high shelf in her closet. She puts her hand into a wool cap and pulls out an envelope with some foreign currency. Don't spend it all on records, Eunice says. Buy some boots. You need a good pair in the cold. Honeymoon in Bariloche. I'm going to make a souffle for you all. Beatriz Riff, 60s, and Dalal Achkar, 34, drinks in hand, chat as they shimmy their shoulders to the music. Anyone interested in this house? Dalal asks. You, right? Beatrice says. I'm looking for a place like this. Round here, Dalal says. Rubens hasn't even started the new house, Beatrice says. But I can introduce you to a great realtor. I don't know how Dalal manages to run a school alone, Eunice says. I don't have 5 kids, right? Dalal says. What a delicious smell, Beatrice says. How do you keep it from sticking to the pan? I was just showing Chris, Nalu says. Seen Veroka? Eunice asks. Isn't she in the bedroom? Nalu asks. Eunice goes over to Babu, who's wiggling her loose tooth. Don't put that dirty hand in your mouth, Eunice says. It's about to fall out, Babu says. Let it fall out on its own, Eunice says. Anybody upstairs? Around them, Boca, the journalists, Raul Riff, 60, and Felix, 30, and the lawyer, Lino Machado, 50, smoke cigars, drink whiskey, and talk over one another. Brasilia is a ticking time bomb, Raul says. The military will hit hard. If the military say no, will they kill him? Eliana asks. The men look at each other, at a loss for words. No, honey, Rubens says. I bet right now Mr. Switzerland's playing cards and smoking cigars. Go change. When she spots her father, she clumsily puts the bottle down and knocks it over. Pimpone tries to wipe up the mess, looking self-conscious. We didn't mean to bother, Pimpone says. Lunch is almost ready, Rubens says. We're just heading out to the lagoon. Baroka begins. This is your going away party, Vera, Rubens interrupts. Come on. The puppy is napping next to one of the speakers. The record on the turntable plays mellow British rock. Rubens' hand lifts the needle, cutting the song off. Hey, Veroka says, isn't this my party? I get to pick the music. Babu, dozing on Eunice's lap, wakes up and joins Marcelo, who's dancing with Nalu, showing off. Rubens goes over to Pimpon. Might I have the honor of a dance with this young lady? Rubens asks. Why are you asking him? Veroka says. Will you put me on your dance card? Rubens asks. No way, Veroka says. Rubens pulls his daughter up as she rolls her eyes and laughs. They start dancing. Eliana joins them. Pimpo notices Eunice, looking on with a smile on her lips, and invites her to dance. The two start whirling around the room. Rubens, feeling a prick of jealousy, swaps partners. Eunice murmurs in her husband's ear. Can you believe our Vera's going away? She says. Soon it'll be just you and me, Rubens says. Rubens gives Eunice a passionate kiss. Babu interrupts the moment, showing off the tooth in her palm. My tooth fell out, Babu says. Everyone celebrates. The sun is setting behind the mountains. bathing the beach in orange. The party has moved out onto the sand. Marcelo and friends fly a kite. Rubens, at a distance from the group, is helping Babu bury her baby tooth. What if someone finds it? Babu asks. Not a chance, sweetheart, Rubens says. Look at the size of the beach. I counted the steps from home to here. Rubens pulls Eunice to the middle of the group photo, next to Veroka. Nobody serious, okay? Rubens says. Attention. Ditch the dictators. I'll take it, Zeze, Eliana says. Eliana runs into the study to pick it up. Hello, she says on the phone. He's not at home. Who's this? Hello? Thanks, Rubens says. Rubens's plump hands rip open the package. Inside are a few letters with no return address. One is from Veroka, accompanied by a roll of Super 8 film and a 7-inch record. In the living room at home, Pimpone the dog, fatter after months with the family, observes Eunice's well-manicured hands, adjusting the Super 8 in the projector. Nalu holds the turntable needle over the record. Can I? Nalu asks. Hold your horses, Miss Mess, Rubens says. She said we had to start it at the same time as the movie. It's a sensory experience, like a Mutantes concert. It's a little weird to spend Christmas without the beach, Rubens reads. But snow is pretty cool too. We even got to make our first snowman. Can you believe my feet touched the same ground as John Lennon? Nalu? Hard to believe the Beatles ever recorded here. He skips a beat, irritated. Or Pimpo, who's going to get a kick out of this glam rock stuff. Nalu hurries to start the song over. Can I read this time, Dad? Eliana asks. Sure, Rubens says. Rubens hands her the letter, sits on the couch, and lights a cigar. Tendrils of smoke pirouette up into the beam of light, casting curlicues onto the screen as the film starts over. Guys, this is no ordinary letter. Eliana reads from the letter. It's a sensory experience. The children make room, and Eunice sits down next to Rubens. The family watches the movie again, enraptured. After a few seconds, the doorbell cuts into the happy moment. Expecting someone? Eunice asks. Just a sec, Rubens says. Rubens goes off. Eunice tries to concentrate on the film, but can't. She turns to see her husband handing the package he received at the office to someone she can't see. In the master bedroom, a ray of sunlight makes its way onto Eunice's sleepy face. She turns over drowsily and notices that Rubens's side of the bed is empty. She walks decidedly over to the window and opens the blinds. Light rushes into the room, bathing it with gold, and Eunice smiles at the sight of the sea shining in the distance. In the study, the dog noses at the model of the house on the desk. Eunice puts the Super 8 roll away in a box filled with photographs. If I don't organize these photos once and for all, I'm going to get hopelessly mixed up, she says. She shoos Pimpo away, and her eye is caught by the model. Can't we put air conditioning in the kids' room? She asks. Rubens, in shorts and a linen shirt in his armchair, is staring intently at the pieces on a backgammon board. The house will be breezy, he says. There's a Kobago wall, a big veranda. She rolls the dice. He gets up to answer the phone. Hello? That's right, at the corner of Almirante Guimarães, Rubens says on the phone. We'll be here all afternoon. Thanks. Eunice rolls the dice and pulls the last pieces off the board. Victorious. She gets up, and Rubens playfully pulls her onto his lap. Where are you going? Rubens asks. To start the souffle, Eunice says. He gives her a kiss as the door opens and Maria Jose comes in, trying to stay calm. There's someone to see you, sir, Maria Jose begins. Dr. Schneider, short, in a sweat-spotted shirt, marches into the room. Behind him are 6 men in plain clothes with revolvers and submachine guns. Eunice springs up, petrified. What's going on? Rubens asks. Congressman Rubens Paiva, Dr. Schneider asks. I think there's been some mistake, Rubens says. I haven't been in Congress for years now. He turns to Schneider. I just need to change. Nalu comes in from the beach with Christina, their hair wet. They are oblivious to the men moving around the house. Hi, Mom, Nalu says. Where's Daddy? But give me a kiss first. Tell Sebastio not to be a stranger, Christina, Rubens says. I will, Uncle Rubens, Christina says. I changed my mind, honey, Eunice says to Nalu. Sleep at Chris's house, and tomorrow you can go to ballet together. All right? She goes out after him. Schneider follows her. On the porch, Eunice picks up Pimpon as he tries to follow Rubens. Two men get into the back seat of Rubens' Opel Kadett as he takes the wheel. Where's the deposition? Eunice asks. I'm not privy to that information, Dr. Schneider says. The Opel Kadett sets off, tailed by another unmarked car. Eunice looks over at Schneider, who's standing by her side. And what about you all? Eunice asks. We'll keep you company, ma'am, Dr. Schneider says. She walks back in, followed by Schneider. The door swings shut. Marcelo, drowsy and in his pajamas, comes down the stairs. Morning, honey, Eunice says. Did you sleep well? Maria Jose whispers to Eunice. I'm a bundle of nerves, Mrs. Paiva, she says. My hand won't stop shaking. Schneider signals for one of the men to go upstairs and for another one to go into the study. The phone rings again. Before Eunice picks it up, Schneider looks straight at her. If it's for your husband, he's out of town, Dr. Schneider says. Eunice nods and brings the receiver up to her ear. Hello. Hi, Dalal, she says on the phone. Yeah, but today won't work. Rubens had to travel last minute. It's a family matter. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll make a fricassee. Eliana comes in, baseball cap and t-shirt over her damp bikini. Eunice notes the men's eyes following her. Why's the house all closed up? Eliana asks. Come have lunch, sweetie, Eunice says. Eliana runs over to the kitchen and comes back with her volleyball. I'll eat after practice, she says. As she's midway to the front door, Schneider calls out, Can't go out now. No one leaves till your dad comes back, Dr. Schneider says. Where did Dad go? Eliana asks. Eunice hastens over to her daughter, placing herself between Eliana and the man. He went out, Eunice says. Let's go to your room. She lets the ball drop and heads upstairs with her, under Schneider's watchful gaze. In the girl's bedroom, Eunice shuts the door, which is plastered with Beatles posters. On the nightstand, between two twin beds, a portable record player and a sticker album from the 1970 World Cup. Who are these guys? Eliana asks. Why can't I go out? They said he had to answer a few questions. She notices the bulk of his gun under his shirt. Eunice comes down the stairs. That's enough, Marcelo. Come to bed, Eunice says. In a minute, Marcelo says. No, Maria Jose just finished putting Babu down, Eunice says. We can finish tomorrow, Marcelo says to the man. These gentlemen won't be here tomorrow, Eunice says. The men exchange glances in silence. All right then, you win, Marcelo says to the man. Marcelo goes upstairs, pouting. Is there anything else I can do for you, gentlemen? Eunice asks. There's food in the fridge, if you're hungry. The men settle down on the couch and around the living room floor. Eliana goes up the stairs with her mother, whispering. They're armed, Mom, Eliana says. I know, Eunice replies. Can I sleep in your bed? Eliana asks. Best stay with your sisters, Eunice says. Late at night in the children's room, Eliana looks over at Marcelo and Babu sleeping in their bunk bed. She rolls over, but can't get to sleep. In the master bedroom, Eunice smokes a cigarette as she leans on the windowsill, staring out at the dark beach and the still, silent sea. A car pulls up and parks in front of the house. She stubs the cigarette into an overflowing ashtray and hurries off. She rushes down the stairs and finds a new group of men coming into the living room. Just a shift change, Mrs. Paiva, Dr. Schneider says. You can go back to bed. The men watch her go, trying not to make any noise. Eunice rummages through the desk drawers in search of any potentially suspicious material. All she finds is an address book, papers from Rubens' work, a few sketches, and handwritten notes. She picks up some scattered photos and puts them into a box with the rest. Through a crack in the door, She sneaks a glance at the men dozing in the living room. Then she notices that one of them is staring back at her from the couch. Eliana, Eunice says, "Wake up, sweetie." Eliana notices Babu in her bunk bed, eyes wide open. In the morning, Eliana and Eunice, purse in hand, are escorted by Schneider and his men. On her way out, she speaks to Maria Jose. "Stay with the children, please," Eunice says. They are guided into the back seat of a police car, next to a cream-colored VW Beetle. The cars take off. Maria Jose looks on uneasily from the porch, flanked by Schneider. The police car speeds down the busy streets, siren wailing. In the back seat, Eunice holds her daughter's hand. The cars pull over abruptly. One of Schneider's men reaches for something in the glove compartment and then holds out two black hoods. "Put this on, please," the man says. "There's no need for that," Eunice says. "It's protocol, ma'am," the man says. Eunice takes the hoods and holds one out to Eliana. She nods and covers her own head. Eliana does the same. In the darkness, the car takes off again. The roar of the engine bleeds into all of the other city sounds. In a stifling, crescendoing cacophony, the hood is pulled off. Eunice is sitting in front of a table under a bare light bulb. There are two military officers with her, one of them in the shadows at the back of the room. "Where is my daughter?" Eunice asks. "Eliana's outside," military officer one says. "Sorry about the hood, Mrs. Paiva. Cigarette?" She notices a piece of fabric covering the place where the officer's name is sewn onto his uniform. "Where is my husband?" she asks. He lights a cigarette, takes a drag, and flips through a folder of documents on the table. "How long have you been married?" he asks. "I want to see him," Eunice says. "Here it says 18 years, the officer says. "Was he associating with communists back then?" "No need," the officer says. "These are just routine questions. He was ousted and had to go into exile. But since he came back, he hasn't been involved in politics." The prisoner is punched in the stomach and starts coughing. He's pulled into a room. At the end of the hallway, a metal door slams shut. Under her hood, Eliana sobs in terror. Eunice stays stock still until the coughing fades away. The military officer continues his questioning, unfazed. "How does your husband keep in touch with the terrorists?" he asks. "I'll take that cigarette now," Eunice says. He holds out the pack again. She takes one, and he lights it. "Rubens is an engineer, a husband, and father," she says. "He's got nothing to do with terrorists." Eunice quickly casts her eyes over the page. "No," she says. The officer draws closer and looks into her eyes. "Mrs. Paiva, all I'm trying to do is make sure you can keep taking care of your home, driving your kids to school, and playing your backgammon," he says. "That's my job." "Did you do something to my daughter?" Eunice asks. "Did she do anything wrong?" he asks. "Of course not," Eunice says. "What sort of a question is that?" She points to a picture of Martha, 55. "That's Martha, my daughter's teacher," Eunice says. "What is she doing here?" "I want to know how he delivers them to the terrorists." "We're not done yet," the military officer says. The soldier handcuffs Eunice. "Why the handcuffs?" she asks. "It's protocol," the officer says. The officers watch the soldier take Eunice out of the room. "Where are you taking me?" Eunice asks. "Mom?" Eliana calls out. Eliana, handcuffed, struggles to get up. "Honey, are you all right?" Eunice asks. "Where are we? What's happening?" Eliana says. The soldier gives Eliana a shove, and she falls back onto the bench. "Sit down, kid," the soldier says. "They're just going to ask you some questions, sweetie," Eunice says. "We're going home soon. Have you seen my husband?" Eunice asks. "They said he was upstairs. He's in a shirt and tie. He's got a mustache." "You'll just rile him up." A figure comes up to the door and shines a flashlight on her stricken face. "Name?" The figure asks. "How long have I been here?" Eunice asks. "Say your name." The figure says. "Eunice Paiva," she says. "Full name?" The figure says. "Maria Lucrecia Eunice Faciola Paiva," she says. "Where's my daughter?" "In the next cell over," an old man answers in a tired whisper, looking much thinner and worn down, Eunice is once again sitting in front of the photo album. A new officer is interrogating her. Do you have a cigarette? Eunice begins. Look again. Military Officer 3 interrupts. Please, I've told you everything I know, Eunice says. I need a change of clothes. Couldn't I just... Eunice runs her tired eyes over it and spots, next to Rubens, a photo of Eliana. My daughter, Eliana, Eunice says. Where is she? Inside, a female prisoner tied to an inclined board has her face covered with a towel. Torturers pour water on the cloth. She coughs, choking. For God's sake, you're killing me, the prisoner says, stifled by the towel. Eunice wrenches free and backs toward the door. Eliana, she calls out. The soldier goes over to Eunice. She's not here anymore, he says. Eunice lets the soldier lead her. The screams slowly fade away as they walk on ahead. Inside the cell, the soldier removes the cuffs and hood. Your daughter only stayed one night, the soldier says. How long have I been here? Eunice asks. 3 days, he says. What about my husband? She asks. Don't know about him, he says. He steps out and locks the door. Eunice sits down on the mat and finds a blank patch of wall. With a fingernail, she scratches out 3 lines. Soldiers wash the bloodstains from the hallway floor. Inside a cell, Eunice is lying down, completely still, when the weary voice of the old man in the next cell starts to rasp out a samba. Samba, black, strong, and bold, the old man sings, pounded like hell, wherever you go, on the corner, in the bar, at worship, in the distance. Rain starts to drum on the metal roof. In the dark, Eunice sleeps next to an untouched tray of food. A figure wakes her up once again with a flashlight. Name? The figure asks. Maria Lucrecia? Eunice? Faciola Paiva? Eunice says. The flashlight goes out. Eunice is shrouded in darkness. Looking much thinner and worn down, Eunice is squatting by the urinal, washing her armpits with dirty water. On the wall beside her are 12 scratches. The soldier with the shaved head unlocks the cell. Used to the protocol by now, Eunice goes over to the door and puts her hands through the bars, waiting to be cuffed. No cuffs today, the soldier says. She finds this strange. He slides the door open. Where are you taking me? Eunice asks. I want you to know that I don't think it's right, the soldier says. The doors of the detention center open, revealing Eunice's fragile figure, clutching her purse to her. She walks across the courtyard with an unsteady, silent step until she spots Rubens's Opel Kadett. She takes a step toward it, but notices a soldier watching her from a guard booth. Shaken, Eunice gives up and quickens her pace, hastening over to the iron gates that lead out onto the darkened street. Eunice gingerly opens the door to her home and tries to cross the living room. Quietly, she trips over Babu's doll and freezes. Maria Jose appears in the kitchen door, cigarette in hand. Mrs. Paiva, Maria Jose says. Unused to smoking in front of her employer, Maria Jose casts around for some place to stub out her cigarette. I'm sorry, Maria Jose says. It's just that everyone's already asleep. Is Eliana here? Eunice asks. Yes, Maria Jose says. She said you were coming back with Rubens. I told her you'd gone to Sao Paulo. Since you've been gone, she only sleeps there. The dark circles under her eyes, her lank hair, her dull skin. She undresses, revealing her fragile frame, and turns on the shower. Eunice scrubs her body until she's covered with foam. She steps under the water, which reveals her reddened skin. She reaches for the sponge and is obsessively scrubbing under her nails when the bathroom door opens. It's Nalu, who jumps when she sees her mother's thin, reddened body. She starts sobbing. Sweetie, Eunice says. Come here. Mom's back, she whispers, trying not to wake their siblings in the bunk bed. Eliana startles, suddenly awake. What about Dad? She asks. Nalu shakes her head. Eliana sits up. She said nobody should go in. Nalu says, Can I sleep with you? I wanted to wait for you, Eliana says, but they didn't let me. I'm sorry. I go there every day after school. We were trying to find you. But I want to know what's happening, Eliana says. Why Dad still hasn't. At Boca's apartment, Eunice, stricken, is holding a newspaper. The front page shows a burned out VW Beetle under the headline, Terrorists Rescue Prisoner. Around her are Boca, Raul, Felix, Lino, and Beatrice. They're on edge and speaking over one another. Through the windows, the light from the beach filters in. This rescue story is fabricated, Felix says. At least now it'll be harder for them to deny that he really was arrested, Lino says. They denied his arrest? Eunice asks. Said it had nothing to do with the army, Lino replies. Same thing happened to the Paskim guys, and they're fine, Beatrice says. Exactly, Felix says. Vanished for 2 months, then released. Put it on the cover, and Rubens will be back in no time. I sent her to school, Eunice says. Is she well? Rubens' car is parked in the army lot, she says. I saw it yesterday. I'll pick the kids up at school. Just take care of lunch, please. Shoot some tear gas in the middle of the mob. Ain't be no oxygen. Folks are gonna drop an incendiary grenade. A fire thrower flashes that troublemaking mob. Gonna trample on its ashes, they chant. The group passes by Eunice and Lino, standing by the Opel Cadet, as an officer fills out a retrieval receipt. Eunice hands the suitcase to the officer, who ignores it. This is a change of clothes and medicine, Eunice says. My husband is diabetic. He needs this. Where do we make that request? Eunice asks. No use. They'll just deny it, Lino says. We'll have to go through the courts. I'll leave the kids home. Then I'll stop by the office to return it. I'm pointing the way ahead, they sing. Always present in our thoughts, at every fork in the road, treading the path of the righteous toward a life of contentedness. She signals at the girls to keep singing while she leads Eunice away. With you, we learn the truth and warmth of a noble heart, the students continue. Teach us the joys and pleasure of fulfilling our mission. So you saw Rubens there? Eunice asks. We were put in the same car, Martha says. Where did they take you? Eunice asks. I don't know, Martha says. They covered our heads with a... Martha turns to her, surprised. But they're the ones who arrested us, Martha says. And now they're saying they didn't, Eunice says. I'm sorry, Martha says. I can't get involved in this. You've got to leave. Chris said I can go with her. Leave it there, Marcelo, Eunice says. In the rearview mirror, Eunice sees the cream-colored VW Beetle. She changes lanes. But what about my ballet? Nalu asks. What about Eliana's volleyball practice? Eliana turns it back on. Let me hear, Mom, Eliana says. They're talking about the ambassador. The passenger's door opens, and the children clamber out and run into the house. Eunice notices the cream-colored VW Beetle on the other side of the street, 2 men inside. She picks up a barking pimpon and tries to close the gate, which is rusty and sticking. Where's the key? Eunice asks. Does it even have one? Maria Jose asks. Eunice yanks at the gate, but it won't budge. Maria Jose puts down the hose and tries to help. Let me do it, Eunice says. Maria Jose steps back, surprised at her reaction. Eunice puts Pimpon down and heaves the gate shut. Both women go in. The water from the hose keeps on trickling down the sidewalk. In the laundry room, Maria Jose is ironing clothes next to the radio, playing a romantic tune. Eunice comes over and turns the radio off. What about that car with those men in it? Eunice asks. It's been there for days, Mrs. Paiva, Maria Jose says. But do they do anything? Eunice asks. They just sit there, Maria Jose says, staring over here all day. Paiva, could you see about my pay too? Maria Jose asks. I know you've got an awful lot on your plate, but Mr. Paiva only paid me through December. He's overseeing a construction site in the mountains, Eunice says, and there's no phone up there. Is there really no way you can help me, reader? Well, I brought some dollars and pounds I had at home, Eunice says. Can you exchange them for me? She goes over to the nightstand and finds a pack of cigarettes in the drawer. She puts the shirt on and leans on the windowsill. The girl lights a cigarette when the bedroom door opens. It's Marcelo. The children look at one another in silence. Hey, Marcelo says, where'd Mom go? At the engineering firm. On the wall are photos of Rubens at construction sites, an elevated highway, putting down asphalt in a tunnel during the building of Brasilia. Eunice, sealed envelope in hand, looks at a framed picture of the Paivas, propped up on a clipboard of unfinished projects. Boca searches for something in the drawers of Rubens' desk. Gilda called again today. Boca says she managed to get Vera on the waiting list for a flight next week. Boca pours 2 glasses with ice. You sure you don't want to stop by our place? He asks. Everyone's coming. He puts the bottle down on the desk and speaks quietly. There's no way to just stand by, Eunice. Especially us. We have the means to help. So me, Rubens, Gaspa, Raul, we all do what we can. One talks to the foreign press. Another one provides shelter to people on the run, deliver letters to families with no news. So you decided not to say a word to me, to Dalal, to Dalva to protect us, Eunice says. Of course, Boca says. Of course, Eunice replies. She takes a drag and shakes her head. And you think Rubens will be released? She asks. I do, Boca says. He'll be back soon. Come on, come have dinner with us. Dalal will love to see you. Thank you. On the other bed, Nalu, who's brushing Babiu's hair, interrupts. Caetano, Eliana asks. Gil? Nalu asks. Gilberto Gil, Eunice reads. He was wearing polka-dot velvet pants. A Bob Marley song started playing, and he asked me to dance. I miss everything, Vera. On the hot asphalt, Pimpone the dog is lying in a heap. From the cream-colored VW Beetle, the men stare at her. Pimpone, Marcelo calls out. Eunice turns back to the house. Nalu holds her brother back as he moves to run, desolate, over to the dog. Babiu clutches Eliana in fright. Eunice stalks over to the VW Beetle. What are you looking at? Eunice demands. What do you want? Where is my husband? She says. She keeps on slapping the glass until the car peels out. Get out of here, Eunice says. Worried, Maria Jose looks at her employer standing in the street. Eunice smooths down her hair and speaks calmly. Ceze, please get me a blanket, Eunice says. Under a drab sky, Babiu and Nalu dig a small grave with their hands. Eliana watches, stock still. Maria Jose tries to calm Marcelo. Everyone seems devastated. Eunice places the blanket with the dead dog into the hole and sticks her hands into the pile of dirt, covering the bundle as fast as possible. She notices as Eliana goes back into the house. Eunice finds Eliana holding Veroca's letter. The Brazilian exiles were asking about Dad, Mom, and Eliana. Eliana reads aloud. I didn't know what to say. I got this awful feeling. I found out about your arrests from the papers. What's going on? Rattled, Eunice slaps her daughter across the face. Go to your room, Eunice says. Eliana stares at her, in shock, and runs off to her room. We hear the door slam. Eunice slumps down onto the stool in front of the dressing table. She puts the ripped letter back in the envelope and notices the dirt on her hands. In the bathroom, Eunice scrubs her hands under hot water. Rain falls late at night. Eunice rereads the writ of habeas corpus in her study. There are notes in the margins, and she's jotting down observations. As she lights a cigarette, there's a noise at the door. Startled, she slowly straightens up in the chair. Headlights rake across the dark living room. Through the wet window, Eunice spots a car idling outside. A figure comes out of the car and up to the house. Eunice quietly makes sure the front door is locked. An envelope is slipped under the door, addressed simply to Eunice. She opens the door, and her eyes meet Martha's through the car window before the vehicle vanishes down the dark, empty street. The torn envelope lies on top of the scale model of the house in the study. Eunice is on her feet, smoking anxiously as her eyes scan the letter. We hear Martha's whisper, in the same tone as when Eunice met her at the school chapel. I still can't describe the excruciating hours I spent in prison, Martha says, but I can guarantee you that I was there with your husband. Although I couldn't see him, I heard him say, Rubens Paiva. Before I was transferred, I heard his voice one last time, asking for water. I pray that the family will be reunited soon. Give my best to my old students Vera, Eliana, and Anna. In her hands, the hope of reuniting with Rubens. Late in the afternoon, the doors open, and the children file in, wearing their school uniforms and backpacks. Eunice follows, carrying her purse and the folder with the writ of habeas corpus. There's still time for a swim, Eunice says. Anyone? We're going for ice cream until peace is shattered. Mom, Eliana calls out. Eunice opens her eyes. Mom, Eliana calls again. Eunice looks back at the beach. Eliana is standing next to Felix on the sand. The faint smile vanishes from her face. In Reuben's armchair in the study, Felix avoids Eunice's gaze. Her hair wet, in a towel, and leaning up against the desk, she hugs herself as if she were cold. Died in combat, Felix says. Medici said, that's all. She turns her face away and searches for the pack of cigarettes on top of the desk. Can you publish that? Eunice asks. Not yet, Felix says. Not even abroad. They won't admit it officially. A subpoena, a court order. But what do you think happened? Eunice asks. Tell me. I wish I were the bearer of better news. What were you talking about? She asks. I just came by to bring your mom something, Felix says. Did you find out where my dad is? Eliana asks. She looks at Felix suspiciously. Not yet, Felix says. Take care, okay? He strokes her head affectionately and rushes out. Planted squarely by the couch, Babu tugs on her brother's shirt. The news is so boring, Babu says. Then go play with your stupid doll, Marcelo says. Cut it out, you two, Nalu says. But you promised, Babu says. Scat, Marcelo says. Marcelo yanks the doll out of his sister's hands and throws it on the floor. Its plastic body breaks into pieces. Babu, holding the pieces of her doll, barges into the study. Eunice is in the same position, her back to the door. Mommy, Marcelo broke my doll, Babu says. Babu realizes she's been crying and takes a step back, alarmed. Eunice turns her face away and dries her tears. Come here, Eunice says. Give it to me. Eunice's gaze wanders across the families, out for a Sunday treat. From her perspective, they move slowly, and the hubbub of voices fades away, as if time had jolted out of joint. Gradually, sounds of helicopter blades cut into the scene. The thudding of the helicopter crescendos into a deafening roar. Eunice awakes with a start. The emptiness beside her seems to take her breath away. She turns on the lamp and sees her disheveled and confused reflection in the dressing table. She walks over to the window and smokes, looking blankly out at the vastness of the sea, invisible in the dark of night. A stake is ripped out of the dirt on the plot of land in Jardin Botanico. Then another. Eunice grabs a third stake, marking the bounds of the house that will never be completed, and rips it up furiously. A fourth stake, stuck deep into the earth, resists. Eunice keeps on until she yanks it out and dusts off her hands without dirtying her dress. At the engineering firm, there are new employees now, huddled around a drawing board. They take discreet looks at Eunice and Boca as they stand around Rubens's old desk. The only thing of his left is the family portrait. Eunice waits as Boca fills out a check. Look, are you sure? Boca asks. If you wait till the deed is in order, we can get a much better price. That piece of land is a gem, and you can still build the house someday. Boca, sitting in what was once his friend's chair, buries his head in his hands. At a bank, Eunice's hand takes the check out of her purse, puts it on the counter, and slides it under the glass towards the teller. For deposit? The teller asks. Cash, please, Eunice says. On the other side of the glass, behind the teller, Eunice spots Reader talking to someone out of frame. Their eyes meet, and the manager awkwardly goes off without greeting her. The teller's hands slip a wad of bills under the glass. Eunice picks it up and puts it in her purse. In the master bedroom, Eunice sets aside a number of bills from the wad, sitting in front of the mirror on her dressing table. She counts again, checks the sum, and puts them in an envelope. In the laundry room, Eunice knocks on a door at the back of the laundry room, Maria Jose's bedroom. In her other hand is the sealed envelope. The door opens, and Eunice goes in. The door closes. After a few moments, Eunice comes out, empty-handed. Her eyes are drawn to the clothes on the line. She touches them. They're dry. Without a second thought, she starts pulling them down and putting them in a basket. In Maria Jose's room, her calloused hands pick up a framed photo of her and her son from the small bureau. She nestles the picture among her clothes, alongside a statuette of the Virgin Mary in a suitcase open on the single bed. Maria Jose goes over the window and lights a cigarette, her hand shaking slightly. Leaning on the window sill, she smokes, looking at the laundry room. The line of clothes is empty. At Rio International Airport, Veroka, with darker hair and paler skin, walks across the arrivals lobby, toting a backpack covered with band's buttons. She's wearing her winter boots, already battered. She spots a group of soldiers checking baggage and IDs. Veroka looks down and picks up the pace. She makes her way past other passengers around the baggage carousel, headed for a revolving door under an exit sign. Veroka comes through the door and spots Eunice, Babu, and Marcelo waiting for her in the cramped, bustling terminal. Her face tenses as she tries to hold in her emotions. Her mother waves, smiling ear to ear at the sight of her. Her siblings run over, followed by Eunice, who wraps Veroka in a hug and, eyes closed, takes in the smell of her daughter. "We missed you so much," Eunice says. "Did you know Pimpom got hit by a car?" Marcelo asks. "Marcelo," Eunice says. "He's talking about the dog," Babu says. Marcelo guffaws, as does Babu. Veroka strokes her sister's hair. "You got bigger, Babu," Veroka says. Babu points at the buttons on Veroka's backpack. "Can I have one?" she asks. "As many as you want," Veroka says. "And where are Nalu and Eliana?" Veroka finds her reaction strange. "They stayed home to wait for the reporters from Manchete," Eunice says. "Why are those shills coming over?" Veroka asks. "They need a picture today to get it into the next edition," Eunice explains. The children trail after their mother as she walks quickly out, weaving between the families, waiting for other arrivals. In Rubens' Opel Kadett, Veroka's hand tunes the radio until she finds a Brazilian music station. She sits back and watches the city roll past through her sunglasses. While she's relieved to be back home, there's a strange note, as if everything has changed while she was gone. Eunice lights a cigarette, catching Veroka's attention. She turns the radio down and leans over to her mother. "Mom, I have to tell you something," Veroka says. "What's that?" Eunice asks. "Your jacket. I left it with Helena," Veroka says. "She begged me so long, I just couldn't say no." Veroka shrinks, expecting a telling off. "That's all right," Eunice says. "It had been stored away for so long. Helena will make better use of it in London." "How about you?" Veroka sits back and looks out the window. Outside, the broad lanes of Avenida Brasil slip past under the harsh noon light. Behind a camera on a tripod, a photographer squints through the viewfinder and gesticulates with his hands held high. "Closer, get closer in," he says. The lens frames the family, posed on the front steps. "Just scooch in a little more," the photographer says. "Got to fit all of you." "Yep," the photographer says. "All ready? 3, 2. He's about to press the shutter when Eunice speaks. "Smile," she says. Marcelo starts laughing. Babu tries to hold it in, but soon explodes and giggles too. The journalist, working with the photographer, addresses the family. "You don't have to smile," he says. "Why not?" Eunice asks. "The editor asked for it," the photographer says. "For what?" Eunice asks. "He asked for a photo that's more More, less happy, the photographer says. He wants a sad photo? Eunice asks. The comment makes the children guffaw even harder. Now, Nalu and Eliana are laughing too. Eunice notices and smiles. It doesn't have to be sad, but just no smiling. The photographer says, We're going to smile, Eunice says. She breaks into a broad smile. Veroka, still out of place, can't make sense of her mother and siblings' reaction. How about serious? The journalist asks. Can we get serious for a second? I really don't understand, Eunice says. How in a country with an allegedly functioning justice system, someone can break into your house, take a father away, throw him in jail, and then simply say, he's gone, and there's not a thing you can do? Every single stage of the legal process was flouted, and after 3 months, the nature of the crime my husband allegedly committed remains a mystery, as do his whereabouts. My lawyer has filed a request to reopen it, Eunice says. This is unacceptable behavior by the state, which is protected by a system of false news designed to cover up the unlawful acts committed by its own agents. Is Zeze off today? Veroka asks. She doesn't work here anymore, Nalu says. Why? Veroka asks. We can't afford to pay her, Nalu says. Veroka tries not to let her surprise show. Let me help you then, she says. That's okay, Nalu says. Tomorrow you can start on the rotation. Let me get the dishes for you today, Eliana, Veroka says. If you insist, Eliana says. You okay? Veroka asks. Eliana looks up at her sister and nods soberly. Veroka lowers her voice, careful not to let their siblings overhear. What's going on? Veroka asks. I heard that they took you along with Mom, but nobody could tell me how. I wish I could have made a welcome home souffle, honey, Eunice says. But there was no time. I'm not going anywhere, Eliana says. Nalu has to go back to the kids' room. We're going back to São Paulo, Eunice says. Are you serious? Nalu asks. I am, Eunice says. Grandma and Grandpa are there, and you can stay with them now and then, because I'm going back to college. The children look at Eunice, who puts down her utensils and tries to keep her cool. I know it's hard to understand, Eunice says, but you'll just have to be patient. This process is, I want each of you to pack your things, and on Friday, a moving truck will pull up out front. Eunice gathers newspaper articles, clippings of interviews, and the writ of habeas corpus. She puts it all away into a moving box and writes Rubens on it. She comes across the box of photographs. Inside is the Super 8 film sent by Veroka, along with a jumble of family photos from years past. She writes on the box, photos organize. In a drawer, Eunice comes across Babu's baby tooth. She hears footsteps crossing the living room. Eunice closes the box, goes over to the door, and cracks it open. Curious. The garage door is open. In the half-light, Eunice spots Veroka and Pimpon leaning up against the hood of his car. She watches her daughter's movements. Veroka is looking down, worried. Pimpon strokes her hair, and she turns away. The next day, a moving truck is parked outside the house, and movers are carrying out boxes and pieces of furniture. Marcelo says goodbye to his friends and hands one his kite. Keep this for me? Marcelo asks. Eunice comes out of the house with a box and gives it to Veroka, who's helping to load up the car, along with Nalu. Have you seen Eliana? Eunice asks. The girls shake their heads. Eunice finds Babu holding her doll, crestfallen. She holds out 2 closed fists. Pick one, Eunice says. Babu points at the left one. Her mother skillfully whirls her hands around and winds up opening her right fist. In it is the tooth. How did you find it? Babu asks. Only Daddy knew. The children's rooms are empty as well. From the bedroom window, Eunice spots something on the beach. Eliana stares out at the horizon, her feet sinking into the wet sand. Eunice comes up to her daughter, and the two of them face the sea in silence. The doors of the Opal are closed. Eliana is sitting next to Eunice. Squeezed into the back seat are Marcelo, Nalu, Babu. They're all quiet, their reflective expressions reveal that this is a rite of passage for the whole family. Eunice starts the car and sets off. Veroka turns back and notices the Super 8 camera in the trunk. She picks it up, looks through the viewfinder, and pulls the trigger. In the grainy image, we see the family's house pulling away. The story jumps forward to São Paulo, 1996. There are only a handful of swimmers in the clear waters of a heated pool. In one lane, a young woman swims quickly to the end and does a flip turn without coming up. She reaches the other end and pulls off her goggles to check the wall clock. It's Babiu. Her hair wet, Babiu walks across the overpass, wearing headphones and toting a gym bag. Behind her is a landscape unlike anything we've seen yet. Tall buildings as far as the eye can see. Babiu comes up to a corner building and goes in. The living room overlooks the overpass. In it are objects, paintings, and furniture from the Paiva's old home. Babiu drops her gym bag on the long dining room table and takes off her headphones. The clacking of the electric typewriter guides her down the hallway. In the study, Eunice, her face marked by the years, smokes as she types away, flanked by bookcases filled with archival storage boxes and methodically organized folders. On the shelves are photos of her grown children and of her at her law school graduation ceremony. Babiu emerges in the doorway. You got in early, Babiu says. Eunice turns, pulls off her glasses, and smiles. Hi, honey, she says. I rescheduled my flight. By land, it's impossible, Eunice says. It takes 3 days, and the area is swarming with land grabbers. Babiu leaves, and Eunice quickly gets back to her work. In a voiceover, we hear Eunice in the next scene. The legal tools we have to try to prevent the illegal occupation of these areas. First, file for the annulment of fraudulent contracts by land grabbers, which Manuela and I did for the Pataxos. Click. The projector shows a single-engine plane in a village, echoing the snapshot we saw in the previous scene. Second, enforce the 1988 Constitution, since it requires the government to guarantee indigenous people's rights to their land. Whoever's interested in reading Eunice's full report, you can pick up a copy after class, she says. The door opens, casting a ray of light into the dark. An assistant steps in and whispers something into Manuela's ear, pointing toward Eunice. It's a lengthy process, but it was important to establish the legal precedent, which, Eunice says. Manuela gets up, cutting her off. Eunice, I'm sorry, Manuela says. Urgent phone call for you. Beside him, Babiu and Eunice quicken their step. Couldn't you comb your hair, Marcelo? Eunice asks. She tries to fix her son's hair, but he dodges. I already put on a tie, Mom, Marcelo says. Babiu laughs. The three of them enter the imposing building. The wheelchair picks up speed on the marble floor. Eunice and her children come up to the security checkpoint amidst lawyers and their clients. Need some room here, Marcelo says. Excuse us, please, Eunice says. Eunice shows her bar association card to Marlon, 30, a uniformed guard who smiles at her. Good morning, Marlon, Eunice says. These are my children, Marcelo and Beatrice. Is your little one better? So, is it really here, Carla? Eunice asks. From behind a PC emerges the clerk, Carla, 25. Yes, Mrs. Paiva, Carla says. Carla sets her coffee cup aside and motions to another clerk who goes off to fetch the document. Carla leans over toward Marcelo, bashful. Sorry to bother, Marcelo, Carla says. But when your mom said you'd be coming in, she picks up a battered copy of the book Happy Old Year and hands it to Marcelo. Do you mind signing it? She asks. Of course not, Marcelo says. It's Carla, right? You're the only one who gets on my case about my language, he says. The clerk hands Rubens' death certificate to Eunice, who stares at the official document, a smile on her lips. Thank you, Eunice says. Can I see it? Babiu asks. She hands the document to her daughter, moved by it. The press is here, Mrs. Paiva, Carla says. Can I let them up? Babiu, at a distance, watches her mother field questions. It's odd, you know, to feel relief with a death certificate, Eunice says. How did you deal with the void left by your husband? A reporter asks. Forced disappearances were one of the regime's cruelest acts, Eunice says. You kill one person, but condemn all the rest to eternal psychological torture. No, Eunice says. I think it's absolutely necessary to compensate the families and do the most important thing, clarify and judge all crimes committed during the dictatorship. Otherwise, they will continue to be committed with impunity. Mom, not the cheap stuff, eh? Marcelo says. After the third round, who can tell? Eunice says. Eunice brings over a bottle of imported whiskey and pours out 3 glasses. Now that this is finally over, Marcelo says, how about retirement? Come visit me and Daniel in Bern. Take a little rest. This piece of paper might well get the ball rolling, Eunice says, but it doesn't say what happened, and it doesn't say who's responsible. We've still got a long way to go. The kids must be back from school. No, Babu says. Dalva and Gaspa aren't in it. What about you? Can she use the timer? Marcelo asks. We're about to find out, Babu says. Eunice pushes a button, and a light starts blinking. It flashes faster as she takes her place between her children. Smile, she says. The 3 of them smile. Flash. In Babu's bedroom, she is finishing packing her suitcase. Among her clothes, she tucks away the photo that her mother took on the night they got the death certificate. She shuts the suitcase and puts it on the floor next to another bag. The room is emptied out. Only a few books and objects remain. In Eunice's bedroom, she counts foreign money. She gets confused halfway through and begins again. She loses her count once more, and before she can start over, Babu comes in. Need help, Mom? Babu asks. Eunice hides her confusion, shuffles the bills together, and hands them over. Check it, she says. I think it's all in order. Eunice jots figures down in her notebook. It's all set out here. Don't worry, she says. Let's go before rush hour. The couple goes in, and the car takes off. Eunice stands there for a while. Then she looks around, turns on her heel, and strides back into the building. In the elevator, Eunice notices her reflection in the mirror. Alone, she steps closer and checks the graying roots in her hair. In the study, Eunice looks at the death certificate for a moment before picking up a bulging binder labeled Rubens. She flips through pages full of newspaper and magazine clippings, remnants of years of struggle. We see fragments. Jornal do Brasil, 1979. Who killed Rubens Paiva? A Final Magazine, 1985. A photo of Martha with the headline, Teacher states in court that she saw Rubens Paiva being beaten. Amilcar Lobo in Veja. Magazine, 1986. Former military officer breaks silence and reveals that Rubens Paiva was murdered at state police headquarters. She closes the binder, matter-of-factly, puts it back on the shelf, and picks up the box of photos. She opens it, and the first one she sees is the family photo on the beach. She looks at the image, concentrating. Then she turns the photo over and picks up a pen. The ballpoint hovers in the air for a moment. Then she writes with a firm hand, Veroka's Farewell Party, 1970. As she puts the photo back in the box, she notices a roll of Super 8 film among the jumble of snapshots. In the living room, Eunice places the old projector on the dining table, turned toward the blank wall. She ably slots in the film. Her hands still know what to do. She turns on the projector. Eunice's eyes shine damply. Far from all the rest, she finally lets herself melt as she watches happy images of a time that will never return. The Super 8 film shows the Paivas on the beach on a sunny morning in 1970. Rubens plays with the children in the sand and kisses Eunice, who grins. The story moves to São Paulo, 2014. The image of Joaquim, too, fills a cell phone screen. He's being filmed by Marcelo, who smiles as he sees his son dance clumsily on the lap of his mother, Sylvia, 35. Blow a kiss to Daddy, Marcelo says. They're finishing up lunch with guests and family members. It almost feels like the house in Leblon, with people scattered all around the backyard and music playing. At one end of the long table is Eunice, her hair white, in a wheelchair. Her eyes are fixed on her grandson. It's as if nothing else exists for her. I was looking for that one of them in Bariloche, Marcelo says. I have the one from Manchete, the one at the beach, Eliana says. I have the ones from college, Veroca says. And from Brasilia. Are there any left? Marcelo asks. I don't think so, Eliana says. None survived, but there's the one with the pigeons. I'll check what I have, scan and send it to you, Eliana says. Put them on a pen drive for me, please, Babu says. She comes from the kitchen with a carton of ice cream, along with Nalu, bearing a dish with a withered souffle. We have souffle, Veroca says. A total failure, Nalu says. It deflated. No jokes. Okay? Now it's Mom's fault, Babu says. Lucky us. I brought some ice cream. I don't know, Veroca says. Sometimes it seems like she's completely adrift. The commission heard over 1,200 witnesses, including state officials and victims of the dictatorship. The document reveals systematic torture and murder that victimized over 20,000 people and left hundreds more missing. The report identifies 230 locations where these crimes were committed. The reporter continues, such as army barracks, as well as areas used for disposing bodies, such as Marambaya in Rio de Janeiro, and Congressman Rubens Paiva. Eunice rests her arm on her lap and sinks back into her void. Out on the porch, Marcelo has his eyes fixed on her. He watches his mother through the window, moved by what he's just seen. He's the lone, silent witness to the moment. Raquel, Veroca says, can you bring Mom out, please? Despite all the family, Eunice looks around as if she were being dropped into a world of unfamiliar sounds and images. Her chair is parked. She turns to Eliana, who's sitting next to her, looking the other way and gesticulating. She turns to the other side and sees Marcelo, who points out ahead. Confused, she turns back that way and sees Raquel pointing a phone at them. The caretaker is moving her arms, making gestures she can't decipher. Only then does she realize that they're posing for a picture. She immediately straightens up in her chair and breaks into a shy grin. Touched, Marcelo calls out to everyone. Let's do this, folks, Marcelo says. Smile,